If you think Charlotte's real estate market is going to be the same as it was a couple of years ago, you're going to be shocked at what the data is showing. Trust me, the Charlotte housing market has gone through the most dynamic changes that we've seen in my entire career, and the numbers I'm about to show you are going to change everything you thought you knew. So if you're planning on moving to Charlotte in 2026, this video is for you. All right, so the biggest shift that we're seeing in Charlotte's real estate market really starts with supplies and the inventory numbers that represent the largest change in housing availability since like almost a decade. Charlotte's housing inventory surged about 34% year over year to just about 9,400 homes as we speak in September 2025, the highest inventory levels that we've seen since August of 2020. So really what we call the pre-COVID market. Builders are finally starting to catch up with the demand after years of shortage in supplies, and new construction completions are hitting the market at an accelerated pace. Sellers who held off during the pandemic frenzy are now listing their homes. Investment properties that people bought during the peak years are being offloaded as those returns start diminishing. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, some of them were bought with an adjusted rate, but a lot of them, they anticipated rent to keep climbing, and while rent really didn't keep climbing, what did was the cost of ownership, meaning taxes and insurance and maintenance on those properties. So as the returns have started to diminish, people are sitting on a lot of equity and they determine to sell the property. Economic uncertainty is also prompting some homeowners to downsize or to relocate. But while everybody's talking about inventory, there is a massive population shift that's happening that's adding 157 new residents to Charlotte every single day, and we'll show you those numbers in just a few minutes. Based on numbers that we received in May of this year, supply has increased across all categories. Townhome inventory is up 64.4%, condo inventory is up 58.2%, and single-family home inventory is up 35.3%. So what impact does that have on buyers and sellers? Well, buyers finally have choices and can take their time and don't really experience bidding wars anymore. And for sellers, the home is competing with significantly more properties than it did previously, and a lot of that competition tends to be with builders who are offering some massive incentives. But here's what the inventory surge is really doing. It's completely changing how homes are being bought and sold. But before we dive deeper into these market changes, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Whether you're following market shifts like this one or checking out neighborhood spotlights, first-time buyer guides, or seller strategies, I'm breaking down everything that's happening in Charlotte real estate. Okay, so the second big sign that shows how this market's changing is how long it takes to sell a home. And what I'm seeing marks the end of this lightning fast sales that Charlotte was known for years. The average days on market has increased from 32 days in 2024 to 47 days in 2025. And while that doesn't seem like a big number, it's about 26%. Federal Reserve data says that Charlotte, Concord, and Gastonia median days on market hit 53 in July of 2025. Buyers are no longer feeling the urgency to put in offers instantly on every property, and today's mortgage rates are causing buyers to be more selective and take their time versus feeling like I have to get an offer in on this property or I stand to lose it. Sellers are having to adjust their expectations from the lightning fast sales in the COVID years to having to do more work to the property to get it market ready because they're competing with other sellers. Multiple offer situations have become the exceptions rather than the rules, and properties are sitting long enough for buyers to actually schedule second and sometimes third showings. Now, while these longer selling times might worry some sellers, wait until you see what's happening with interest rates and why Charlotte buyers are still making moves, and I'll explain that in just a few minutes. In some areas of Charlotte, we're consistently seeing like 43 to 53 days between the time a home's listed and the time it goes under contract. For example, that same home might have sold for 5 days in 2023 is now taking 48 days in 2025. Some of the buyers' benefits are pretty numerous, but they get time to think. They are able to get inspections and not waive them. They're able to negotiate repairs. In previous years, that was thrown out the window, and a lot of times buyers were having to buy properties that they had never been able to see before they made the offer. And for sellers, they're coming back to reality. It's longer marketing periods, and that first offer might not come in the first week. With homes taking longer to sell, you might think that prices are crashing, but what's happening with pricing is more nuanced and actually creates specific opportunity for smart buyers. So the third shift in redefining Charlotte's market is pricing. We're seeing the end of double-digit appreciations and the rise of a more rational pricing environment, creating opportunities that we haven't seen seen in plenty of years. In 2025, the year-over-year price growth ranges from about negative 0.4% up to about 5.9% versus every year in the pandemic when we had double-digit appreciation pretty much across the board. And according to Redfin, the current median home price in Charlotte area is about $405 to $438, and the Zillow average home price is about $401, which is down 1.6% year over year. Now, that price per square foot averages out about $245 to $246 a square foot, and price growth has normalized from this unsustainable double-digit increases that were during that 2020 to 2022 era. Sellers are finally understanding and accepting that their home won't continue to appreciate at the same levels that it was appreciating them. Appraisals are coming in a little bit lower, forcing pricing adjustments. Luxury homes priced above a certain point are seeing the biggest correction. And first-time homebuyers are finally having opportunity that they haven't seen in years. In fact, one week this year, we had a week where we had 1,000 new listings hit the market, but 1,900 price adjustments, which indicates that sellers are finally coming to grasp with this. One of the opportunities that this is creating is that buyers who were priced out of the market are starting to be able to get back in. Between July 2023 and July 2024, Charlotte had a net migration gain of 57,300 residents. That's a daily population growth of 150 residents per day. In fact, between 2020 and 2024, that number ranks us 9th in the country, outperforming cities that are known for their explosive growth like Boston, Philadelphia, Nashville, LA, Raleigh, and Minneapolis. Why? Well, corporate relocations, job transfers that create consistent demand regardless of market conditions, young professionals choosing Charlotte over traditional expensive coastal cities, retirees from the Northeast who are discovering Charlotte's lower cost of living and milder climate. International companies are establishing regional headquarters in Charlotte's business-friendly environment, and Charlotte's also known as a travel hub. The long-term projections here are expecting the population to double by the year 2050. That's an 80% growth rate in Mecklenburg, York, Union, and Iredell counties. In Mecklenburg County alone, they're anticipating 600,000 new residents by 2050. And companies like Citigroup and Asset Market are coming in with major investments, 200 plus jobs, 500 plus jobs with an average salary range of $110,000 to $130,000. There's a ton of employment growth. The Charlotte MSA, or Metropolitan Statistical Area, is anticipated a 4.3% employment growth versus 2.7 for all of North Carolina, 2.9 for South Carolina, and 2.4 for the US. This is the type of employment growth that drives housing demand, and it's why Charlotte's market behaves differently from leisure or vacation markets. And all of this employment-driven demand brings us to the final shift. Okay, so here's why Charlotte's handling 6.8% mortgage rates better than most markets around the country. First of all, let's talk about that. Current mortgage environment is a 30-year rate at around 6.5%, and the average house payment's about $2,700, which is up $300 from last year. Now, Charlotte's advantage is having to move market versus discretionary buying markets. Well, what do I mean by that? Corporate relocation provides steady demand that doesn't disappear when rates rise. Charlotte buyers are making necessary moves rather than timing the market. Unlike vacation markets and second home markets, Charlotte doesn't rely on discretionary second home purchases. Its job-driven demand creates a more resilient buyer pool during economic uncertainty, and we saw that in 2008 to 2010, where we didn't get as affected here by the financial crisis as some of the other major metropolitan areas. Federal Reserve projections show gradual cuts in 2026 through 2027, the federal funds rate by mid-2027 of 2.25 to 3.1%, with potential mortgage rates hovering around 4.25 to 5 by the end of 2027. And the National Association of Realtors projects a 14% increase in home sales in 2026 if rates drop to 6%. And price appreciation forecast shows 2 to 3% price appreciation in 2025 and 2026, which is very normal, unlike the speculative market that we were in during COVID. This represents us moving to a predictable environment versus the extreme volatility that we saw between 2020 and 2023. What it also probably hints is that if mortgage rates drop a little bit faster or a little bit lower than anticipated, some of these projections might be a little bit low. The bottom line is that Charlotte's real estate market has shifted in 2025 from a hot seller's market to a more balanced one with rising inventory, slower sales, and moderate prices. show this change. While strong population growth and corporate investment keep demand pretty high, looking ahead to 2026, if mortgage rates drop, buyer activity will surge, tightening up inventory and creating the next wave of competitive opportunities. So if you're thinking about buying or selling a home here in Charlotte, send us an email, info@jwhitegroup.com, and we'll talk to you about what you need. The Charlotte market is still growing, still attracting new residences and businesses, and still full of opportunity. Don't get caught off guard by these shifts. Let us help you. But before you go, check out our next video linked right here. Well, I'm going to go through all the myths about Charlotte that you probably still believe. We're going to debunk them, so get ready, and we'll see you then.